Once again, they've done it. The Michael Jackson biopic is at 27% on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm sorry to tell you this is real. Pay attention. The Michael Jackson biopic debuts at 27% on Rotten based on 48 reviews. That's totally crazy. Look, this number has already been updated, and for now the movie is at 32% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is still really low. I mean, basically these so-called expert critics have destroyed the movie. They've said this is garbage, that this is trash, and right now we're going to see exactly why. But anyway, it turns out that IGN gave Michael Jackson's movie 3 out of 10 stars. And well, the funny thing is that this same service gave She-Hulk an 8. Exactly, the people at IGN gave She-Hulk an 8, while they gave Michael Jackson a score of 3 out of 10, and you might wonder why. Maybe the movie is bad? Maybe the movie is mediocre? Maybe the movie, I don't know, doesn't have good songs? But no, that's not it. Please pay attention. No matter what opinion you might have of Michael Jackson as a person, this biopic is nothing like who he was. Both as an iconic performer and as a controversial tabloid figure. I think we all know what they wanted to see. Basically, they wanted this movie in which Michael Jackson's family participated. Well, they wanted this movie to talk about all the slander against Michael Jackson, all the slander he faced, all the false accusations. But I imagine they wanted them to be portrayed as if they were real, just like what happened with the fake documentary Leaving Neverland. A documentary that, from my point of view, isn't even a documentary. This was criminal. A fake documentary. If Michael Jackson had been alive, he would have filed a historic lawsuit against these people. Absolute criminals. Well, it turns out that the press, the critics, gave it a 98% rating. Or rather, 98% of the critics liked this garbage. That tells you everything you need to know about it. And basically, it reveals to us what criteria the critics are using to negatively evaluate Michael Jackson's movie. In fact, they tell us here, breaking news. Most of the negative reviews of the new Michael Jackson movie are because, according to some, the film avoids showing his most controversial side and only presents him in a positive light, as if they were trying to clean up his image. That's what the film critics are saying. And well, here's what one person says. They're so disgusting that they expect the movie to reference false accusations. Totally. That's the problem. That's what they want. They don't just want a reference to those accusations, but they also want them to be treated as reality. That's why so many of them were happy with the fake documentary Leaving Neverland. They were thrilled. They loved it. Remember, 98%. The same people who, interestingly, also loved Cuties actually gave it an 88% rating. 88% of these people liked the garbage that is Cuties. Incredible but true. A series. A movie. I don't even remember anymore. Damn, it was something that came out on Netflix and it got a 14% rating from the public. That's the rating that really matters. This is what the audience thinks. An embarrassing, shameful, disgusting movie. I would even dare to say that, and yet they still gave it an excellent rating. We all know why it got that rating. Needless to say, we all know why they loved the movie Cuties. And well, I imagine they're trying to make Michael Jackson look like one of theirs. And this is really sad because just imagine, Michael Jackson's life was destroyed with false accusations, they ruined him financially, damaged his image, took away his peace and tranquility, basically, they finished him off. I mean, those accusations and everything that followed ended up taking Michael Jackson's life. And they were accusations that at the time were repeated by the media, even though they were false. Completely false, made up, fictional. Well, sadly this ended Michael Jackson's life. But the problem is that after his death years later, it's been almost 20 years since Michael Jackson left this world, they keep defaming him, they're still doing the same thing? It's unbelievable, going against a man who can't defend himself. But anyway, here people are commenting and giving a 3 out of 10 to a Michael Jackson movie. Exactly. That's the reason why nobody takes so-called professional critics seriously these days. I totally agree, guys. And please, let's watch this review. Pay attention here to my review of Michael Jackson. A 100% rating. Michael faithfully shows Michael Jackson's human and artistic qualities with an amazing level of detail. Okay, very good. Such a realistic and faithful portrayal has never been seen before of the king of pop. From his walk, his face, and his voice to his dance and attitude, you really don't know where Jafar ends and where Michael Jackson begins. Excellent, guys. That's what we want to see. The movie that shows you his entire artistic side, with numerous musical numbers identical to the originals. But they also give space to the personal dramas and the suffering Michael endured in childhood and youth, because the movie doesn't shy away from the darker sides. It wouldn't have been fair. They're part of the myth. However, they portray it in a subtle way, although visible enough to understand the torments that Michael endured deep down. Of course, and that's the right way to do it. The film shows us a man trapped between his desire to be the best artist on the planet and his inability to escape the cruel world around him, especially among those closest to him. It's a work that makes you smile but also forces you to cover one eye during the moments of greatest emotional rawness. Personally, I think Michael Jackson would have liked this movie. An outpouring of entertainment for all audiences, but it doesn't faithfully show all the facets that shaped his personality. Even the darkest ones, but in a respectful way and without cruelty. And without indulging in anything grotesque. It's a work that makes you smile, but also forces you to cover up. So-called professional critics, the mainstream media who have been fabricating a totally distorted narrative about Michael Jackson for decades, are now complaining that they don't see their distorted narrative represented in the movie. That's fine, since it's really just a wild story these media outlets invented. If you notice, they have nothing negative to criticize about the movie, except that the movie doesn't have anything negative about Michael Jackson. I mean, what they really wanted was for him to be slandered. For those who don't know, because maybe there are people who still believe that all the slander against Michael Jackson is true, the answer is no. It's all a lie, it's all false, it was all made up. They did it to try to get as much money as possible from Michael Jackson. He was a victim. Let's continue. Here they're telling us, but the question is, when have the critics ever supported Michael? The critics have been tearing Michael Jackson apart since the late 80s. Now it's not going to be any different. So don't miss seeing it in theaters. You're going to enjoy it a lot. I think that's what we all wanted to hear. We've confirmed that the critics have lied once again. And well, luckily, it seems that Michael Jackson's movie is wonderful. So gentlemen, see you next time.